Go ahead and reconvene at 12:36 because we voted and said we can continue on. We're going to go on to item number 6, which is 16-1094 proposed project related action in the Lakeside specific plan. Staff, would you like to share something with us?
Yes, good morning. My name is George Schroeder. I'm the project planner for this project, and I have a presentation here. So this is the vicinity map of the 1250 Lakeside project. It's located east of Lawrence Expressway. It's north of Oakmead and along the south side of the 101 freeway. The site's almost 9 acres in size. It's currently vacant. It's been vacant for about 10 years. There was a previous Four Points Sheraton hotel there. On the west side of the site, you have the Avalon apartment complex. On the east side, you have the Residence Inn Hotel. On the south side of the site, there's a man-made lake where there's many commercial and office uses that also border the lake. The property is a sole parcel in the Lakeside Specific Plan. This was adopted in 2005 for a previous mixed-use residential and hotel project that was approved but was never built. So this is a project summary. It's a 6-story, 263-room hotel with a ground floor restaurant, and also a 7-story, 250-unit apartment building. Parking is for the hotel is in a 3-level parking structure right next to the hotel, and underneath the apartments are a 2-level podium parking garage. There's various site and off-site improvements that are proposed to accommodate the project. The existing parcel would be split in two, one parcel for each land use. And in terms of the environmental review, a supplemental environmental impact report was prepared. There was a previous one done in 2005, and this supplemental report was mainly to review the changes since then, mainly for traffic purposes. A Lakeside Specific Plan amendment is also proposed. The main change is to reconfigure the land uses that were in the plan, notably moving the hotel to the east side of the site and a residential building to the west. The other notable amendment is a height increase proposed from 78 feet to 85 feet to accommodate the proposed architecture. There's also various text amendments, mainly just to reflect changes in city policies since 2005. So the site plan is below. The buildings are framed along Lakeside Drive. All the building setbacks are consistent with the Lakeside Specific Plan. The project is designed to open up towards the lakeside area, so there's a good mixture of public and private open space that sort of cascade down to the lake. Vehicular access is on 4 sides on Lakeside Drive. Pedestrians can also access the site from Lakeside and also within internally within the project. The hotel includes a full-service restaurant, includes a bar and lounge area, meeting and banquet space. The residential building includes community rooms, fitness rooms. The unit mix is studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. A deviation is requested to count some of the residential balconies towards the usable open space when they do not meet the specified dimensions in the code. But staff is supporting the deviation just given the extensive amount of open space that's proposed for the project. In terms of tree removal, the project is proposing to remove 39 trees, primarily due to impacts resulting from the proposed buildings and the improvements. About 240 replacement trees are proposed to offset the impacts. These are just a few renderings. These are more of your bird's eye views from for the northern portion near 101, and then the southern portion towards the lake area. The design objective of the Lakeside Specific Plan is to create a harmonious and a consistent design that will create a landmark project for the city. Staff and the city's consulting architect has worked extensively with the applicant, and we feel that now we are at a point where the project design is meeting this objective. The proposed hotel building height is about 85 feet, which is proposed as part of the Lakeside Plan Amendment, and the residential building is proposed at 82 feet. The main mass of these buildings are located along Lakeside Drive, with the hotel particularly lowering in height as it gets down to the lake. These are just a couple of other renderings from ground level. The top image is viewed from 101, and the bottom image is also from that same area along Lakeside Drive. Modular construction is proposed for these buildings, where the units in the hotel rooms will be manufactured off-site and transported to the site and assembled there. LEED is proposed for the residential, LEED silver, and LEED gold for the hotel. A big component of this project is a public park that is proposed by the applicant in order to meet their parkland dedication requirements. About a 3.4 acre public park in the green on the image there is proposed, along with a combination of in lieu fees. And the park would be owned and maintained by the property owner, as well as a business association that controls the lake area. And the park right now includes fitness areas, a dog park, trails along the lake where you can get from one side of the lake to the other, seamless pedestrian access, and also bike and vehicle parking. The supplemental EIR, we did look at the environmental impacts since 2005. For the most part, the environmental impacts remain the same, with the exception of traffic, since we've had many projects since then. The significant unavoidable level of service traffic impacts were about at 4 intersections, and these were mainly at Lawrence Expressway, where it's a county expressway, and the city does not have the ability to control how the county uses the mitigation, and when they're able to implement the mitigation to improve the level of service. There is fair share payments to the county as one of the mitigation measures. The Planning Commission heard the item on November 14th. They recommended approval on a 7-0 vote. Some of the recommended conditions, which are reflected in the current recommended conditions of approval, were to include some pedestrian wayfinding signage, some consistency in conditions of approval, incorporating more of the native species, increasing the EV spaces, and also including hotel employees in the shuttle programs. Staff recommends that the council certify the supplemental EIR, make the CEQA findings, and adopt a statement of overriding considerations for the significant and avoidable traffic impacts, and adopt a resolution to amend the Lakeside Specific Plan and also approve the special development permit and tentative parcel map. There is one minor change to the condition of approval. I believe it's at the dais. Is condition GC-12D. It's to add the language of major transit stop to the airport shuttle, because the shuttle is proposed to go to the airports and major transit stops such as Caltrain. In attendance, we also have Christy Wise from Dave J. Powers, the environmental consultant, as well as Francisca Church from Fear and Piers, the traffic consultant on the project. This concludes our presentation. We're available for any questions.
Councilmember Griffith would like to ask you something.
Yes, and I suspect this is more for Trudy, but I'll try. Privately owned public park. If we ignore things like joint use agreements, is this the first? SFPUC is public, and the county is public. Is this the first case we have of a privately owned public park?
Yeah, I believe it is. We do have some privately owned property where we have trails and that kind of sort of access, but not a full park.
I mean, I'm just sort of curious about, in terms of agreements with the property owner for maintenance and access and all that kind of stuff. This seems like something that's kind of new to us. How confident are we that we've thought through all of this?
Yeah, we discussed this at length with the property owner. We will have agreements with them that talks about the maintenance. There's other agreements as we have for other properties about liability, so on and so on. And certainly it is not something we do on a usual basis, and this is not necessarily a park location that the city would choose if it was building a new park, but we feel that there's some really good amenities that the residents can use, and we worked out items like having parking that's available for park users, providing access not just within their property but also around the entire water feature. So we've worked through a lot of those, and we have done similar things in a much smaller scale, so we feel confident that we can make this work.
So let me ask how this works with the park dedication fee, because the way the park dedication fee is set up, a housing developer is required to give us land, give us money, or some combination of the two. And in this proposal, the owner is doing neither.
Well, let me clarify that they did not get 100% credit on the land toward their park dedication requirement. That is very similar to the credit we gave to two projects on Waddell, the ones you mentioned earlier that were somewhat near your house. So perhaps you didn't participate in the discussion, so aren't as familiar with those. But we did give partial credit because in one case it's an EVA and they have to have it anyway. But what they've done is they've opened it up for the public use.
This is Raintree and Sars Regis?
Yes, and then in this case, the same thing is a portion of the area that's been identified as potential park has that other use. So we gave them less credit, if you will, for the park dedication requirement. So overall, we get the balance will be in the park dedication fees, and the amount of land is greater than the other balance would have been.
So, and I just want to make sure from a legal point of view, because I wasn't aware that there was a third alternative in the language of the Quimby Act or our fee structure or something like that to give us land or give us money. There are ways around that legally?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Davis.
If I may, the one thing I would note is we may not have fee simple interest in the land, but we have an easement, so we will have a property right interest in the land that we're holding for the public.
Let me also clarify, because these are apartments, we're not, the park dedication requirement is not through the Quimby Act, but it is a mitigation measure that's required of apartment development. So the language is similar in the zoning code and the subdivision codes, but it's not specifically the Quimby Act in this case.
It just seems funny because in every other case, we end up with owning something, whether it's money or land, that we didn't own before. And in this case, we're okaying it and not actually taking possession of anything.
Yeah.
Some money.
Yes. So I think we misspoke in that it's not a park in another the other situations on the two Waddell projects, but we did give them credit towards their park dedication requirements.
Okay. Now, Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, let's jump on this park thing. Approximately how much acreage is involved in this squiddly doodle thing that they got mapped out?
3.4 acres.
3.4 acres. It actually looks like it's more designed for the people who live in the apartment buildings than it does for the public. I think that we're just fooling ourselves if we say this is a park that the people from Lakewood and Fairwood and San Miguel are all going to come over and have barbecues and enjoy the scenery. How much better off would we have been if we would have just told the developer, we'll take the cash? How much money would they have had to give us?
Well, we can calculate that for you. I just want to just clarify. Obviously, this is a suggestion that we're making, and the council has discretion in the project. But I do want to emphasize that it's not the first time we've had public access across private property. And that in this case, as part of the trail system and park system, it will be listed on the city's list of parks and available to the public. And there is another residential project across the street that we would anticipate would also be interested in using the site, in addition to anyone else in the city that's interested.
See, I understand what you said, but what I'm trying to convey is that it's impractical. You know, they need to provide some recreational space for those two apartment buildings. And so that park, 3.2 acres or whatever, is going to be put there, you know, to satisfy the demands of the people who are going to live in the apartments. And, you know, we can make nice and say, okay, if I live in Lakewood Village, I can come over there and have a barbecue too. But the fact of the matter is, that's impractical. It's just unrealistic to believe that large amounts of members of our public are going to be able to go to this 3.2 acres that's hidden behind two apartment buildings and a hotel to enjoy a park setting.
Councilmember Davis, I don't think that was a question, but I think we can differ on the issue.
Yeah, so I'd be interested in finding out, you know, whether we would be better off by taking money that we could put into our park dedication fund, where we could enhance our already existing parks, rather than trying to, you know, make something of this 3.2 acres. Now, on the design feature of the hotel, I'll wait.
So Councilmember Davis, just to clarify the park in lieu fees, so as proposed with the provision of the park and the combination of in lieu fees, the fee payment would be about $3 million. If the public access easement is not proposed for the park, the full in lieu fee payment would be about $12 million.
So in foresight, it looks like we'd probably be better off saying thank you to the park and taking the $12 million. Or am I just not hearing things because it was very late?
But, so I'll just jump in. I think that's going to be a question for us, not necessarily for staff.
Russ?
It's going to be a question for us, not necessarily for staff to answer that question.
Now, the rendering that you showed in the program up there of the hotel, the frontage along Lakeside, is that's what is being proposed?
Yes, that's correct. And I think the applicant has some additional renderings in their presentation.
I certainly hope that they're more pleasing than what I saw. Is this project still owned by the Millennium Corporation?
Yes, it is.
Well, when I met with a developer 2 years or so ago, I specifically remember talking about the hotel, and the hotel facing onto Lakeside and Highway 101 as being 7 stories, and then winging out to 3 stories, sort of surrounding the recreational center in the middle. Did that get switched, or I got a bad memory, or?
It's very similar. Right now the proposal is 6 stories, and this is the 6-story portion is towards the Lakeside Drive. Okay. And then it lowers in height as you get closer to the lake area. It's kind of a unique design, and I think the applicant can show more about their intent.
Great design. I love the design. You know, I hate the facade that I was showing, but you know, that's okay. The apartment buildings, those are proposed to be 7 stories?
Yes. So the apartments is 7 stories in total. 5 stories of that would be apartment units, and then the bottom 2 floors is a partially exposed podium parking garage, which technically counts as 2 stories.
Okay. All right, that covers my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Martin Milius.
About what I was going to ask. There was a comment you made.
Your microphone. Turn yourself.
What is a fair share of what?
is the county going to pay, or are we gonna pay them? I'm sorry, I must have blanked out for a moment when you were talking about the,
Yeah, so this would be in regards to the fair share payments for some of the impacts on Lawrence Expressway. The actual fee amount has not been determined yet. There is a general condition in the conditions of approval that in the mitigation monitoring program that they do work with the city and the county to determine the extent of these fees, and that they would be paid prior to the building permit issuance, but we don't have the exact number this
okay,
time.
okay, thanks.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to disclose 2 meetings that I had last week. One was with representatives of Unite Here Local 19. We discussed affordable housing and the shuttle for residents and employees. I also met with a developer. We walked the site, discussed the layout, the shuttle, and the public space and public amenities. Thanks.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes, first question for staff. So there, next to this property, so we talked about the value of the park. There's the Avalon Apartments. Approximately how many units are there that would also, I'm assuming, be using this parkland?
About 700 units are there.
Okay. And then there's also residents and just east of this project,
East of
right?
there, yeah, 750 apartments, or 742, something like that.
Okay,
Avalon.
at Avalon. Okay, so there is in an area where there really isn't any parks. From an easement standpoint, and just try to get a better idea, this land, kind of this configuration of these properties around the lake is somewhat unique. So the easement that we're having for the park, does that apply anywhere else in that area, as far as kind of general access to the lake or the pond area, as far as residents?
Yeah, so the park area would also cross over on the offsite area that is currently in the area that's owned by the business association for all the businesses that maintain the lake. So the park area would cross over to that area. The existing paths would have public access easements over those, so you could theoretically walk on all sides of the lake and then get east to west without any issue.
So my question was, do we have similar easements with the business association to the south? Was what's currently being proposed here?
That would be, if we accept the dedication, that would be both north and south of the lake as part of this project.
Okay.
Otherwise, we don't have access to that. It's all private.
I see. Okay. And then lastly, so one of the conditions of approval coming from Planning Commission was the EV chargers, and kind of a range of EV chargers based upon electrical infrastructure, which seemed a little odd from my standpoint of that they're so much on the edge that the difference between 60 and 90 EV chargers would push them over. So can staff first comment on that? And then secondly, when we're talking about EV chargers, as far as I could see from the project plans, they were only the residential areas, and we've been seeing project after project from a hotel standpoint where we have conditioned adding them to the hotels. So just trying to get a better idea from staff on EV chargers.
Yes, so for the EV chargers, they're mainly located in the residential building. There's about 63 proposed right now, and I think a little less than 10 in the hotel. The condition that it be built to the existing infrastructure was really related to the electrical capacity that could accommodate an increase, but not more than 90. This language was mainly put in because the applicant had a concern that it might require another transformer if it were to be increased to this specified number, and it was really just trying to reduce the number of additional utilities that would be needed for this.
Okay. And
Yes, it's definitely up to the council's discretion if additional EV spaces are requested in the hotel.
okay.
I believe the applicants-
And I'm fine with that. I'm just didn't see it in the project plan, so if staff could double check that after the questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, one other thing came up. You talked about the hotel is going to be built to LEED Gold standards.
That's correct.
And did you say that the apartments were going to be LEED Silver?
Yes, that's what's proposed.
Why?
I think the applicant can talk more about that, but just a little background on the green building requirement for residential. The city requires that they meet a certain amount of points on the green point rated checklist. And the applicant proposed LEED Silver and demonstrated to us that it's essentially equivalent as the green building 80 points that would be needed for the residential building.
So I wanted to go ahead and ask staff, I mean, we've been focusing a lot here on the park and stuff. Can somebody give us some background on, there's a park lake plan that they're having to do something to, right? So maybe, is that what is kind of driving something around the park to satisfy the lake plan?
I'm sorry, it is late, so I didn't quite catch the.
So we've
nuance
talked
of
a
your
lot
question.
about the park here and dedication and how is that going to go but my understanding is there's an underlying lake plan that wants to have some kind of facility like that. Is that correct?
Well, the Lakeside specific plan does not include the entire lake area and the area to the south. It just included the area to the north of the lake. And there was no provision in the plan for park dedication.
Okay.
Just because it happened with the previous project.
Yeah. But the concept was here, I mean, this is a man-made lake that was going to be there was going to be some kind of facility and, be able to use the lake, and that's what they're trying to go ahead and satisfy.
Well, they're using the lake as a feature of the development, but they're also offering the lake as a public park amenity.
And then I'll just go ahead and make this comment. I'm not even going to try and put a question mark on the end of it, that not all parks in the city are the same. In terms of usability by different residents, we include golf courses in our parkland space, and not everybody plays golf. So I'll just go ahead and I'm going to throw that out. Councilmember Griffith, I was almost going to be able to get to public comments here.
Yep. Something occurred to me when I was looking at, if we look at L2.4A, which has the Lakefront Promenade West Enlarged Plan, and it shows all kinds of really cool things like decomposed granite, dog park, bioswale, on and on and on. It's clear from looking at this that some of this is intended to be private hotel use, and some of it is intended to be part of the public park.
There are three types of usable open space on the property. There are areas that are private to the residents.
Right.
There are areas that are private to the hotel guests.
Right.
And there are areas that are open to the public. And they satisfy their private open space requirements separately from this additional park land.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, looking at some of this stuff and how cool it is, how physically demarcated are the different sections? Are we going to have the case where Sunnyvale residents are going to be wandering in areas to be chased away versus wherever else?
Yeah, it would be fenced, so it would be demarcated. It would be clear the difference between the public area and the non-public area, the private area.
Okay, thank you.
Now we're going to go ahead and get to the public section here. I think the applicant's going to get 10 minutes to discuss their project, and then we have a couple speaker cards, and you'll get a little bit of time at the end of that. So the applicant's up.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. My name is Kurt Whittick. Do we have our...
Say you'd like the presentation.
Yeah, could we get our presentation up on... Thank you. I'm the developer of the project on behalf of Millennium Sunnyvale Partners Limited. I have with me tonight Tim Johnson, a principal at NBBJ Architects, who will present the master plan and the hotel. John Ennis, a principal of BDE Architecture, who will present the apartments. And I have Ying Yu from SWA, a principal in SWA, that can hopefully walk through the park and its concept for you. So very quickly, some project highlights. It's obviously a 263-room premium hotel. We believe it will ultimately employ between 100 and 150 people. We're providing a shuttle for both hotel and residents, hotel guests and residents, to and from public transportation and airports. We are creating 250 apartments, obviously near work. 88% of the apartments, 220 of them, are below market size for typical apartments of their type, the studios and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms in the market. So we're not claiming that they are below market units or that they are meeting the definition of affordable, but 88% of all the units in the building are smaller and therefore on a relative basis more affordable than what is elsewhere available in the market. To the park, which we think is a very important feature of this project, and with all due respect to Councilmember Davis, we think that in today's world, what you might call micro parks that are located where they're needed in neighborhoods are utilized on a much higher per capita basis than some of the bigger parks that have the soccer fields and the baseball fields and such. Not every park can have a soccer field, a baseball field or such. We think that the dedication of an easement is virtually identical to the city owning it, and we're agreeing on our dime to maintain it in perpetuity. There's a public dog park as a part of it. There's no such thing in the area. We will go through in greater detail in the presentation of all these different features that are a part of the park, but we think that it will be highly utilized and very clear to any pedestrian in the neighborhood that this is a public area and that they're invited within that. There are fitness stations, picnic stations, etc. Lastly, the hotel, in its design, has over 22,000 square feet of function space, which was a mandate of the specific plan. And I think comparing it to other hotels in the marketplace, the vast majority of which are very limited service hotels, you would see that this has far, far in excess the function space for banquets and meetings, which we were told up front was an important consideration for the city. At stabilization, this is going to pay roughly $3 million a year to the city in TOT taxes, and we are paying a total in this project at present of $8.6 million in impact fees and city fees. Tim Johnson will present the master plan and the hotel.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. It's my pleasure to present our master plan and the design for the hotel. As was pointed out earlier, we've switched the relationship between the apartments and the hotel from the original plan from years ago and put the hotel closest to the exposure on 101, which makes more sense for commercial property, and the residential, which is now adjacent and across the street from Avalon, is further to the west. I think one of the interesting aspects when we first studied the site was how do we relate this to the lake? How do we make the lake not this sort of island in the city, but how do we actually integrate it? So you can see we've kept the buildings to the north part of the site, and we've really created a tremendous amount of open space for the residents, the hotel, and the public along the lakeside. Relative to the hotel, it is a unique hotel. It's a courtyard hotel, And as was discussed, it's high along 101, 6 stories there, and then it terraces down toward the south. So it allows the south light to gain access into the courtyard. We've also rotated it slightly. It offers actually better views to the mountains in the distance, and also creates that profile along the 101 corridor, which gives it great visibility. Just looking at the plan, you can see, as Kurt mentioned, in the lower portion of the plan, there are restaurant, banquet area, and also meeting rooms. So there's a substantial amount of space that's dedicated to meetings and bringing people into the site, as well as the courtyard for the hotel. You can see in this plan, the main entry to the hotel is on the left. You enter into the lobby, which is in the orange color. The parking is all enclosed. That's to the east. And then you can see the blue and purple functions are the meeting space. So you can see the proportion of space for meeting areas vis-a-vis the other lobby functions of the hotel is quite substantial. This just shows a typical room floor and the courtyard, the various levels as the hotel steps back. There are roof terraces that accompany that on the way up. This is actually a view of the main entry upon arrival to the hotel. The hotel reads as a larger mass because it's facing the highway, but we actually pull up the facade and create this very unique entry condition. These are the views. The top rendering is actually a view from 101. And again, you can see from the freeway view the impression of the hotel. And then the image on the bottom is actually a view from the lake looking back at the restaurant and the ballroom. That's a lower scaled mass, has a number of outdoor spaces so that whether it's a conference or a wedding or people dining, they actually activate that lake, which I think is going to be another reason why people will want to come there. This is a final view from 101, and again, we're very proud of the design. It's very modern. It has a substantial presence along the freeway. I think will really add to the character of Sunnyvale as a city. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to John Innes to speak about the apartments.
John, thanks. Thanks, guys. I'll do my best to do this quickly. We worked a lot with staff and the architect that the city had help us with the design. We think we came up with a really nice, unique project for for this location. It's not going to look like anything else. It's very organic and interesting shape. It'll be very memorable. We're very proud of it. I want to use my time wisely here. I did want to say our firm, we specialize in apartment buildings all around the Bay Area and the peninsula. And one of the biggest things we find, our tenants love to have dogs, and this park will be ideal for these tenants and the tenants across the street at Avalon Bay to come and throw balls and walk their dogs and be out there. And I think we've done a lot to have wayfinding. It was a specific concern at design review to have a lot of wayfinding so people walking around the neighborhood know to come in, and we've included bike paths and things like that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is the view of we have a really nice leasing office lounge area for the tenants that faces Lakeside. It's very inviting, and a lot of the open space here, you can see we really pulled the building back up on top of the terrace where the pools are. They're kind of up a level, so it's very clear what's private. And then once you're down on the ground plane, all the green stuff down on the ground plane, that's really more of the public areas. So here you're up on top of the podium where the pool is, where the active space for the tenants are, and it's kind of really easy to tell what's public and private. We have landscape courtyards on top of the podium, which are shown here for quieter gathering areas with fire pits and barbecues. Again, so it's very easy and obvious this demarcation between what's public open space and private open space. I think I'm going to save the rest of the time for landscape.
Hi, so should we click to the next slide? Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, so with regard to landscape, I want to talk about the connections. I think it's really important that for this project to do well, to be a vibrant project, it needs to integrate well with the rest of the community. And so what you're seeing here is there is an existing trail that surrounds the entire on the southern side of the lake, and what we're proposing is to complete this trail by adding the red line on the northern side to complete a loop system for recreation and the dog walkers and all the residents. So, and then on top of that, we're proposing to provide 2 entry points that are really obvious and identifiable, one from the Lakeside Drive on the north and the other on the west side, right directly across from the Avalon community. So, are we out of time?
In the interest of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to stop, and maybe some of our council members will ask a question and we'll let you finish.
Okay, sounds good.
Councilmember Griffith.
My question is not related to that.
Well, but somebody else might. I'm going to be a clock watcher.
On the landscaping area, as we look around the park, how you've got wayfinding, and you're going to have the trail that goes all the way around. Will that be both for bikes and for pedestrians?
I think the path right now is at least 8 feet wide at one of the entry points, so it should be able to accommodate both bikes and pedestrians. And the path along the northern side of the lake is really wide. It's actually part of the fire lane, so it could accommodate all kinds of circulation, whether it's people or bikes or other kinds of recreational uses.
Yeah, I think that's on the other, and the dog park is very easily available
Yes.
to as you walk down that pathway.
Yeah, so it's actually right next to the entrance from the Avalon community entrance. As you go through that path, immediately the dog park is on your left side, so it's actually really accessible. And there's already people walking their dogs everywhere.
Oh, yes, there are. Yes, there are. Lots of dog owners in that area. Yeah, I live in that area, so yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that. And so it looks like you're adding some crossovers
Yes, the bridges,
into this.
yeah, pedestrian.
And I'm assuming that the businesses that are on the south side,
Yes.
south side, will. I mean, they already have access there,
Yes,
right?
there's
don't they?
actually a trail right along.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, so this will serve both sides. And any other features that we should know about on your?
Well, the dog park is probably the most sought after amenity, but there's also a terrace, kind of like an outdoor amphitheater. So once you pass the dog park, you'll see the amphitheater that are stepped, and then there's an area that provides temporary events, community-driven events that could occur right there, some kind of concert or stage, as well as a lakefront terrace that allows people to gather and looking over the lake. There's also a forest, kind of like an urban forest idea that's planted with different kinds of seasonal colored trees. And there's also a path that goes up that area as well. So there's different programs all along that trail. Yes.
Anything else that we should know about?
I think it's a great. I mean, I do think it's going to get used a lot.
Oh, I
because
think it'll
it's
be
already
used a lot.
happening, and it just takes another. It takes a push. I mean, it's like a catalytic project that once you get it started, people will come, and it's probably going to get crowded.
I suspect you're going to get some crossovers from the fault line to go into your
Yes, the
restaurant,
restaurants people.
and vice versa. For that. So yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Griffith.
Yes, and I'm not sure if this is for you or for somebody else. One of the concerns I have when I hear privately owned public park is the concern that this ends up being a public park in name only. And I want to make sure that when we're approving this, we're approving something that is going to truly be a public park. It's going to be used by the public, and it's clear from the design of this that residents on site and residents in Avalon are going to have easy access to this. So my question is, when a Sunnyvale resident from somewhere else in the city wants to come here, where are they going to park?
the agreement that we have with the staff is that we are to provide a certain number of parking spaces within the hotel parking facilities during certain hours of the day. We're obviously going to live into that. I don't think we've agreed on specific numbers and location at this moment, but it will be a part of the permanent easement and a part of our obligation.
Okay, so we're talking about the gray area here off to the right.
Sorry, I don't see.
To the east.
No.
Yeah, to the east, I should say.
Yes, well, there's in the.
It looks like it's a multi-level something or other.
Am I controlling this? Okay. That loop in the middle has parking around it, and the main parking structure for the hotel is, yes, the furthest structure to the east of the hotel.
Okay, so if we're talking about, and I assume they're dedicated marked spaces for people who want to come and use the park?
That would be the concept, yes.
As compared to, hotel parking.
Right.
Are you going to put them in the loop, or are you going to put them in the structure on the east, or both?
I don't think we've decided yet. We want to put some of them in the loop and perhaps some of them in front of the hotel. There's another part of the parking that is in the actual front of the hotel. You see the area in
near
yellow?
where it says parking entry, the big thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and when we're talking about the loop, I can see access from the parking there to the park pretty straightforward.
Right.
What kind of foot-by-foot access is there from the parking structure to the park area? Is it like they're going to have to wind all the way around and do stuff, or is it pretty direct?
Well, there's direct to the rear, and that you could join the trail in the red area of the trail, or you could walk around the front of the hotel and down the main driveway between the two structures.
Okay.
And on the west too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just addressing how one would get from a car that they just parked in the garage or in the loop. But yeah, if you're a pedestrian, you could enter from the left and the furthest west part of the site, right?
I'm not as concerned about pedestrians.
Right.
I'm concerned about when somebody from Ponderosa wants to come, or my neighborhood. And I guess this is more a comment to staff than anything else. Assuming this gets approved, and don't take my reticence the wrong way. I'm looking at this and I'm just imagining the possibilities, and it's really pretty cool. I think that's about the third time I've said that. Sorry. My concern is that we don't, in the process of proving this and making it a public park, set it up in such a way that it actually discourages people from doing it, or from actually coming and using the park. One of the concerns I have whenever I hear privately owned public park is that the private owners won't maintain it, but since it's part of a commercial hotel, I'm not as concerned about that, because you've got a very strong motivation to keep that nicely maintained. The second thing is that it doesn't become, people get dissuaded because they don't know they can come there, or they don't know where they can park. And I want to make sure that our residents, that they have clear, very easy to understand access to this if they're not walking on foot. I don't know the extent to which that's built into the conditions of approval, but is this something that staff thinks is already addressed in the conditions of approval, or something that we need to actually add?
Yeah, and I'll ask CDD staff if there's a specific condition, but this, developer will tell you this was very specific discussions that we had with them. This is one of the staffs, we saw a good opportunity here to add additional park facility for Sunnyvale residents, but our big concern was access and parking. And we discussed that at length over a number of meetings, making sure that we have wayfinding signs, making sure that we had signs right up front at the entrances saying this is a public park. We also are planning to include it on our website, as we do with every other park facility that has public access to it, so people know that it's there. So it's something that we discussed at length over a number of meetings, and we expect that it'll be very well marked, so people will be aware of it, and we will be included, like I say, included in our website as public access facility with park facility.
And, I want us to keep in mind that it isn't just somebody driving from Ponderosa, but it's somebody driving from Ponderosa who's decided to hold a kid's birthday there or a barbecue for 15 of their closest friends. And they may need to wheel stuff out of their car to wherever it is they're going to end up. I don't know if they're going to have the kind of facilities that are going to allow reservations, but
It's not that kind of park.
No,
So
it
not all
isn't.
Parks have picnic tables, not all parks have
barbecues or whatever.
et cetera. So this is a little bit more for active use. I mean, you could be contemplative, I suppose, because there'll be benches, but it's not intended as a frisbee park or
We don't anticipate somebody showing up and setting up a bounce house for a couple of hours for a party or something like that.
well, no.
Okay.
I mean, if they do that, it would be against any of our park policies without a permit. So if they ask for a permit there, they wouldn't be issued because we wouldn't be managing that component of it. But I do want to point out condition of approval BP 11, which talks about the park dedication, and then the any of the privately owned public park and the joint maintenance and those agreements. If there are specific features that you're concerned about, it would be appropriate to add some of those to that condition.
Yeah, and the last thing I would add, which I think one council member brought up already, that of course we have different parks that serve different purposes, and I think you said you used the word cool a few times, and I mean this provides something different that we don't currently have, and by providing the whole loop around it, we thought that was a really good amenity that provides something different for Sunnyvale residents.
I gotta say, I see this, and I think to an extent, like merit. And if we can have even at a reduced level, that kind of an effect where people are just strolling around the water feature and doing whatever, we don't really have anything like that. I mean, closest is probably Balin's. So
So I just wanted to say something. I would probably do the bounce house on this property, just so you know. But so
you were asking why I give you a hard time.
I know. I thought I'd live up to it tonight. Okay. So just to leave a new term for you, POPOS is kind of the term. It's public, privately owned public open space, and it's actually built into the Perry Park plan, and it's built into the Lawrence Station area plan, where they get incentives by putting in areas that's publicly available. They still own the property. We do have an easement that controls how it's used and how it's maintained, and we're seeing already some of the projects going through in Perry Park having those, and the projects in Lawrence Station. So I think you'll be seeing more of them. They're smaller areas. They're for people who may be walking through and using it, less the more destination type.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, who owns the lake?
The Commercial Property Owners Association.
So, you have to do whatever you're going to do in conjunction with the people on the south side of the lake, although I would imagine that other than walking on the south side of the lake, there's not going to be any amenities.
I think there actually is one or two stations that are going on the south side of the lake for rest or exercise. But we appeared before the board twice, presented the plan. We were unanimously given permission to do this plan and to grant the easement required by the agreement. The association needed to assent to that, and we have their assent, and we'll draw the appropriate documents and such for that access to be.
Interesting factoid. In 1991, when President Clinton and Vice President Gore came to Sunnyvale, Vice President Gore ran around that lake. That was his exercise routine.
Oh, that's good to know. We'll put a sign up maybe. And,
dedicated.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions from the council right now, so I'm going to go to public comments. I have a couple speaker cards. Is there a Stefano Medina here? And that's followed by Johnny Chang.
Good morning. Good morning, council members. So My name is Stefano Medina, and I'm here on behalf of the members of Unite Here Local 19, the union representing hotel, food, and beverage workers in the South Bay, many of whom live or work in Sunnyvale. We represented the workers at this site back when it was a Sheraton 4 Points and a Hilton before that, and our members are very interested in the hotel returning to the site. We are here today because our members and workers in the hotel industry stand to be impacted by this project as residents and commuters, and we believe the project can be further improved by mitigating its impacts on transportation and housing. In our view, the Supplemental Environmental Impact Report does not detail all of the potential transportation impacts of this project. While it accurately identifies numerous impacts, it does not explore certain areas of impact on our public transportation infrastructure that will affect workers at this future hotel, many of whom will be low-wage workers. Currently, there are no new proposed bus stops near this project, meaning workers will have to walk up to a mile round trip to take public transportation. No analysis has been done thus far on the impact this new ridership will have on bus routes. Will it lead to overcrowding? We don't know, and we can't know until this issue is further explored by staff. The SEIR also states that while the project will create 238 jobs on site, its 250 residential units, quote, could offset the increase in jobs resulting from the project, and, quote, would not likely foster or stimulate the construction of housing elsewhere in the city. We challenge this conclusion in multiple letters because of the obvious discrepancy between the likely low-income jobs the project will create and the unaffordability of the project's market rate residential units. As currently proposed, the residential units will not offset the housing needs of the on-site hotel workers. Rather, it is much more likely that the hundreds of workers at this future hotel will be commuters. They will be on our buses and highways, and many will be traveling several hours on a daily basis. This is bad for workers and will exacerbate Sunnyvale's jobs, housing, and balance. Ultimately, our members would love to see a hotel on this site again, but they also want to make sure it is a good redevelopment. We believe this can be achieved through tweaks and further study, so we ask that you, as a council, consider the issues we raised in our letters. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Johnny Chang.
Hi, good morning, mayors and council members. Well, my name is Johnny Chen, and I live in Sunnyvale on Bernardo Avenue, and I live there for like 6-7 years now. And well, also currently I volunteer at a local church ministry called the Refugee that mainly serving the homeless people. And I've seen those people sleeping in their vehicle or on the street, don't have a warm, cozy place to lay down their head. And so I'm kind of a little sympathetic and concerned about, this advanced population. Well, anyway, I'm currently working at the Hilton Santa Clara, and I'm a member of United Local 19. And well, thanks to my union, I have living wage, hourly wage, which allows to pay for higher housing price, and I'm excited about the prospect of Sunnyvale having more hotels. But I want to make sure that the project takes into account the housing and the transportation needs of the people who will work at the hotel. And many of my fellow hotel workers are struggling to stay in the area. As you can see that this project, I hope you will think about the workers at the future hotel. Where will they be living? How will they be getting to work? Well, I would love to see a hotel on this side. I'm worried about these questions. So I ask that the council take the time to consider these issues before approving the project. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was the last speaker card I had. So we're going to go ahead and the applicant gets 5 minutes if there's anything that you want to come up and share.
would it be appropriate to finish our presentation on the
You can use your
features of
5 minutes
the park?
any way you'd like.
I would like to see if we could do that, because I think it's an important part of this presentation.
So I think we stopped at the previous slide. So right here, you're looking at the north entrance from Lakeside Drive, and I think one of the questions asked earlier, if people were to park in one of those parking lots, how would they access to the lake amenities? And so what you're seeing there is that there is an 8-foot wide path that somebody could actually cross and then get direct access on that path to get safely, all the way towards the lake. And also, this is the west entrance across from the Avalon community. And so the desire to really bring in the public into this park is expressed from a plaza. Basically, you come into the space, there's a kind of generous plaza space that has, bike racks as well as signage as well as seating area. Try to invite people and draw them into this park entrance, and from there you could decide whichever way you want to go. So along this path, there's different fitness equipments that people could choose to exercise, as well as some of these seating areas, picnic tables, to really enjoy the amenity that's currently there along the lakeside. And this is an example of the signage that was mentioned earlier. It's very important to have really bold and colorful, inviting signage to get people's attention. Some of these fitness amenities, as well as using as much native drought-tolerant planting along the path. Some of these could even be educational features about California plants. And then going forward, some images looking at the dog park area. That's sort of the yellow patch that's going to be for residents as well as the public coming in. And then towards the east, you could see that amphitheater, sort of a kind of intimate, quiet, contemplative seating area for the public, and then the decking. And as we go towards the east, this is the sort of the forest park, so it's kind of a contrast to the more open lawn areas on the left. And so here you get more shade, more plant diversity, and then also some of these water retention basins as a way of capturing stormwater runoff from the site. And then more perspectives about the dog park, and it is fenced, it's just so that dogs can be somewhat contained. They don't run wild once they're off their leash. And then this is that terrace garden that's also very much planted, the deck area facing the lake. And this is that, the forest idea that ultimately will get more full, but people could, again, have a different way of experiencing this public space. So that's the introduction.
Just wanted to mention that the shuttle that we contemplate providing for both residents of the apartments and for guests of the hotel is also going to be provided for employees of the hotel to and from public transportation. Obviously, what's there today is kind of a hole in the neighborhood. It's not developed, it's fenced, there's a pile of gravel. This project, I think, as well as any, it was conceived to knit the neighborhood together and provide that public space to do so. That hopefully invites in a lot of the public and not just users of the apartments or the hotel.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I'm going to see if there are any comments or questions from the council. Councilmember Klein.
Yeah, just a quick question of staff as far as the chargers are concerned. Did they figure out how many are in the hotel resident or the hotel as opposed to the residence garages?
Yes, so in the hotel there are eight EV spaces. and then as currently proposed in the residential 63, but there is that condition to up it depending on the existing infrastructure.
Okay, so staff, in general, we've had kind of a rule of thumb of like 3% for hotels, and does staff have a feel for if we require it from a hotel standpoint? And from an infrastructure standpoint, the site is a big site, so I'm not sure the infrastructure, electrical that you were referring to, how that applies. Does staff have a recommendation for spreading the wealth of chargers amongst both the hotel parking and the residential parking?
The zoning code requires pre-wiring for 3% of the spaces in industrial and office development. So that's what the general standard is. You could. Do we have a total number of spaces, or it's just 3%?
The total in the hotel is about 255, so that's about 3% of that.
It's current. Oh, okay. So it already is. So 255 hotel parking spaces, and you're saying 10?
There's 8.
8. Okay. Okay.
It's the new math.
Yes, just double check. Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, who on staff can waylay my concerns regarding the building standards for the apartment complex? I'm concerned that we're talking about silver lead. I haven't seen a project that has mentioned silver lead in I can't remember how long. And what are we losing here? Why are we not encouraging things being built to a higher green standard?
So normally we have projects that come in with the Build It Green program for residential development, but we do also allow them to use the LEED program for their green building certification or the green building standard. And the minimum requirement for the Build a Green program is equivalent to the silver level. So that's what we would require. So they would be complying with the program through the LEED program versus the Build a Green program. So it's what we would require any other new apartment
But it sounds like that we're requiring the very minimum in regards to meeting our standards.
Well, our minimum is well higher than so there's nothing, then there's LEED certified level, and then there's LEED silver level. So our minimum requirement is already at that second level of going into a more thorough green standard.
If they were going to build to a higher standard, what would they have to do?
I don't know what the specific things they'd have to do to comply with the LEED Gold, which would be the next level up. The points are given based on a number of different factors. They'd have to look at their program. But I mean, essentially what we're saying is they comply with what we would require any other apartment development residential development to do.
They're just using a different standard.
LEED and Build It Green are different ways of measuring green. But for the type of construction they're doing, the LEED program works better. But it's the same level we would require of anybody else. I can see you're not comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Is there a desire of the council? Councilmember Griffin.
I'll take a shot at this. I'll move alternatives 1, 3, and 5.
Councilmember Klein.
Second.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, this is a very interesting project. One of the reasons why, and I'll try and keep it brief because it's now almost 2 o'clock. One of the things that's really interesting to me is we just spent the last item, agonizing over whether or not we were going to go up to 6 stories. And with this project, we're sort of, without a lot of opposition, setting a new record for Sunnyvale at 7 stories. But this is a location where I think that's warranted, so it doesn't give me too much heartburn. I love the notion of the park if it works out well, and it's just a matter of whether or not implementation will match vision, and I'm hoping staff will take the appropriate measures to make sure that happens. I wish at 1:45 I could come up with specifics that I'm looking for, and hopefully just expressing my concerns is done enough.
Councilmember Coyne.
Yes, I'll be supporting the motion. I was able to make the findings. I really like the idea of swapping the hotel and the residential. I was on the Planning Commission when this first came in front of the Planning Commission many, many years ago, and I think the design itself is very unique. It's very different than what it started with many years ago, and I think from a viewpoint along 101, I think it'll be provide interesting architecture that will draw people to the site. I applaud the applicant for creating this public-private park, and it should be. I think that's it's a very positive thing. Making it dog friendly. We've already seen how well the lofts and the Solstice apartments have been doing, being dog friendly. And then the last thing, of course, is smaller units. As much as we keep asking developers to build studios and one-bedrooms, not that it's specifically affordable, but there's a certain portion of the market that needs those smaller units, and having a large inventory of 2 and 3 bedrooms only means that those units are normally being shared by conceivably multiple families or multiple individuals that are pooling their resources together. So I'm very happy to see more studios, a preponderance of studios and 1 bedrooms in this facility. And lastly, this is just, I'm happy to see this project go forward. It's a visible site from 101, and it's been kind of languishing for so long, and I'm happy to see the landscaping and just kind of the amenities for this general area, providing a park and workout area. I think it'll be positive for Sunnyvale in the long run. So I hope my other council members support the motion.
Councilmember Martin Milius.
I definitely support the motion. Absolutely. This when it was the Hilton and when it was the Sheraton, the lake area was very heavily used. It was a pleasure to go out. Of course, we did have the ducks, and they started coming into the room sometimes. But hey, it was interesting. So I think the businesses will all do much better now that we have something that's going to be built. It's been so long as an empty lot, and it will be a delight to see something, and that we have. I like the facade of the whole thing, and it's bird friendly. I appreciate that a lot. So you've got fritted glass, you've got shadows, and the style is all very contemporary and also bird friendly. So I'm very happy to see that. The access and the design is interesting. I think it will serve that whole area, the business area and our residential areas, very well. It was. I have no concerns whatever about having a privately owned public access park, and it is in everybody's best interests to maintain it, keep it viable, and so forth. And I don't think there'll be any problem at all with that. I think it'll bring business in both places. The fact that you're bringing in shuttles to work with the transit system to make that last mile possible for people, I think is a big plus. And you're pretty close to the Caltrain station on Lawrence, the Lawrence station, and certainly Lawrence has a bus stop right outside on both sides of Lawrence there. So you do have some options there, and I think that will serve us all well. So I'm very happy to support this.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, I was very excited about the project and the idea that we're going to gain a hotel again. I think that was an excellent property for that kind of development. And you know, I'm okay with the apartments. I think 7 stories, and you know, and apartments and the configurations they're talking about, you know, works. What I am concerned about, I think that, you know, and this just may be me, I'm looking at the coloring in of the presentation for the facades, and it concerned me. It doesn't look very good, but that may just be because of the way it's colored, you know, and it also may be because it's 10 minutes to 2 in the morning. But I really don't like the park project, you know, the public-private park. I think that the city is not going to get as much out of that as if we had asked for the park dedication fees in full. And I don't think that it's going to be utilized by a wide variety of our community. I think it's going to be utilized by the people that live in the apartments and the people that live in the Avalon. You know, but that's sort of a small sector of the community. You know, and we try to talk about one of the features being a dog park, but you know, as you remember, in the Parks of the Future program, we're going to build a dog park at Lakewood. So you know, the idea of a dog park here doesn't make the situation more appealing. And if I remember correctly, you know, back when this project was first introduced, I remember the hotels being much larger. But you know, that may also be just because of a bad memory. And you know, I am concerned in regards to the LEED silver. You know, I think that we should hold our builders to a higher standard, especially when we're talking about putting people into these kind of complexes. But I can see that I'm one of 6, and I'm sure that the motion will pass and go forward. And you don't have to worry much about me after tonight anyway.
So I just have a couple comments. First off, my decision right here has nothing to do with the time of the day. I too can make the findings on this project. I think being able to, this is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this a high quality development of what's going on. The vision of what you're trying to do, of where we're trying to get housing, the hotel, the integration with the lake and the other things are there, the work that's been done to go ahead and swap the previously, how that was looked, you know, to me that's trying to take a look at the vision of what's going to go ahead and be there. I think that there's been a lot of discussions about how this public-private piece works, and I hope nobody ever has to come back to the council and say it's not working, because they're going to play this tape and say, hey, we talked about it, and whatever it is, you guys fix it, is going to be my opinion, or if somebody asks me how to go ahead and deal with that. But I think this is going to be a positive thing. We talked about how this looks from the freeway. I'm not going to mention any other projects or cities where they're at, but I see a lot of stuff along 101 that's just boxes, big boxes. And I think this is going to look a lot different. And I think we, you know, ask our city planning department when they work with developers to give us something that's a little bit more creative in the style of what people are going to go ahead and see. So I'll be supporting this motion, and with that, let's please vote.
The vote is 5-1. Councilmember Davis dissenting, Meyering absent, motion carries.
Okay, so that ends our general business. We'll just finish real quickly. Council members, anything on IGRs to report? We can do IGRs, can't we? Okay, you guys don't have anything to say anyway. Okay, so it sounds like we have nothing less to do. I don't have to take a vote to adjourn the meeting, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 1:54, and happy holidays to everyone.